it can give a patient a high dosage of radiation. That's really not, that's why in radiology or in radiography, we don't usually use CT to carry out our processions, and we prefer using ultrasounds. We prefer using MR scan. As a radiology, you can't just carry out the procedure that without the consent of the patient. It's inappropriate as a medical professional. Radiology is a place for you to go. It's a wonderland for people that wants to go into the medical. When you talk about healthcare, you talk about there are courses that are really rampant everywhere. You talk about medicine, you talk about nursing, you talk about dentistries, and but you don't talk about radiography, you don't talk about radiology because we're not that rampant. But as the world is changing, tech, AI is taking over everything. That's the more reason that radiologists are highly needed in the community because of the changes in the technologies used in healthcare. If you love using technologies, radiology is for you. My name is Ransom Onyema, and I'm a radiologist medical student, currently studying, in Nigeria, and I'm in my third year, as a radiologist medical student, currently in Nigeria. And the name of my university is Federal University of Technology, School of Basic Medicine. Alongside my passion, for medicine, I'm also a medical writer. I try to, translate medical jargons to the understanding of the audience, and I started my medical writing, expertise in my first year, in med school. That was in 2020. That was the first time I started writing, you know. But back before I was, in my first year in med school, I've already graduated from my secondary school. And when I was done with my secondary school, I worked in the hospital as a healthcare assistant for like 3 months or plus. After I was done with that, my passion for medicine really, moved me to, studying for medicine because I applied for medicine and I wasn't granted that admission. So I was offered radiology. So along the side, I fell in love with the course, you know, radiology. And it's amazing that radiologists currently in my country are few, and the few radiologists in Nigeria have a lot of works, they're doing, being so versatile in everywhere. So radiology is the eye of medicine. When you talk about medicine, you talk about radiology. I can't imagine if during a surgery or during any kind of healthcare, processes can't do without a radiologist. A radiologist is also needed in terms of surgery and everything. So along the line, I started falling in love with the course. Fast forward to now, my journey has been an amazing journey. I must say, because along the line, I've um, generated an idea of what the course is all about. The specialization of CTs, MR scans, X-rays, DDT, direct digital radiography. I'm going to explain all those things for you guys. You talk about others. So when you talk about radiology, what is radiology? There's a difference between radiography and radiology. I'm going to explain. Radiographers are kind of like technicians that carry out the images of, a patient. And radiologists are the interpreters. They kind of like the doctor part of it. We are the people that interprets the image directly to, you know, to the doctors that will carry out the operation or the surgery. So radiology has different types of fields, across. You talk about nuclear medicine, you talk about radiotherapy, you talk about um, specialization in X-rays and ultrasound CT. Okay, let me start out with the technologies used in radiology. As a radiologist medical student, I've had a chance to get in touch with some expensive technologies used in radiology, because radiology you know, equipment are really expensive. What I mean is, for instance, when you talk about CT, what is CT? CT is what's called computed tomography. Computed tomography comprises of a computer and an X-ray. Yeah, so that's kind of like a very exquisite technology used in radiology because it's not rampant, in the world because CT is when you talk about CT, you talk about the disadvantages are really above the advantage. What I mean is that it can give a patient, a high dosage of radiation, and that's really not applicable. So that's why in radiology or in radiography, we don't usually use CT to carry out our processions, and we prefer using ultrasounds. We prefer using MRI scan. One thing about MRI scan, when you talk about MRI scan doesn't use ionizing radiation. What I mean by ionizing radiation is ionizing radiations are those radiations that depicts images on the computer of the radiologist. It takes time to get an image through using MR scan or any other forms of scanning. Because MR scan is kind of like broad, and when you talk about MR scan, you talk about hydration, you talk about water, you talk about all different kinds of hydrocarbons, it works with. So fast forward to this moment. When I was in my second year in school, I had a chance to move to our federal, our university has a school and a hospital that teaches. It's called a teaching hospital. The name of the hospital is named Federal University of Technology, Owerri. When I was in my secondary school, I had the chance to go there to see my senior colleagues. In radiology, if you're a student, once you see a radiologist that is above you or is already working in the profession, already trained in the profession, you call them senior colleagues, right? So that's how I address them. So as I went into the FMC, I had, that was an examination. I had the opportunity to associate with patients with different types of diseases. That was an examination, like I said. I had to deal with patient that has acumen. When you talk about acumen, you talk about hardness in hearing, patient that can't properly hear what people say correctly without interpretations, right? So, and I had another patient that I worked with that had diabetes. I was asked to showcase the remedies, in diabetes. When you talk about diabetes is a very chronic disease that people should, deviate from because diabetes has different types of stages. But the major stages in diabetes, you talk about type 1, you talk about type 2 and others. But these two are the least stages that could, cause harm, in a patient. So when I was, during the examination, at my at my teaching hospital affiliated with my university, I had the opportunity to meet those patients, and I was asked to give remedies to to their cure of the disease. Now, as a future radiologist, there is what they call psychology in radiology. When you talk about psychology, this is the terms of getting to know your patients, trying to like get more competence from your patients. What I mean by competent is seeking consent from your patient. You can't just, as a radiologist, you can't just carry out a procedure that you don't really know without the consent of the patient. It's inappropriate as a medical professional. So this is what the teachers, psychology and radiography or radiology, anyone, it's all applicable. You talk about seeking consent from patient. So during the examination, I had to get to know my patients. Firstly, get to tell them the procedures and trying to like seek more content from them. So I had to, as a radiologist, future radiologist, you have to seek the content. And if the patient tells you to go ahead, you have to move with the procedure, right? But before you attend that patient, you must dress very well. I dressed really very well then, as a future radiologist. So I would say back into till now, radiology, the course is really not rampant globally because as of 2019, there are over 5,000 radiologists globally. And out of that 5,000 radiologists, 3,500 are retired. So the rest, 1,500 are current radiologists. And that's kind of like weird, you know, because we have very few globally doing radiologists. And that's really why we are highly needed in the healthcare system. What I mean is, fast forward to now, there are only 3,500 radiologists globally as of from 2019 till now. So what that means is that radiologists are highly sought after, in the healthcare system. And it's a great pleasure to tell you guys that if you pursue a course or a dream course in radiology, it's worth, studying because of the future benefits. If you like puzzle, if you like playing, drafts and stuff, radiology is a place for you to go. It's a wonderland, for future people that wants to go into the medical. You know, when you talk about healthcare, you talk about there are courses that are really rampant everywhere. You talk about medicine, you talk about nursing, you talk about dentistries, and you talk about orthopedics and stuff, but you don't talk about radiography, you don't talk about radiology because we're not that rampant, in the world. But as the world is changing, tech, AI is taking over everything, that's the more reason that radiologists are highly needed in the community because of the changes in the technologies used in healthcare. If you love using technologies, that means radiology is for you. Well, what I mean is in radiology there are high tech equipment that we use to carry out our procedures, as a radiologist. And radiologists don't really work all around like medicine students, medicine do, or nurses they do, no, 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 no. We have our shifts, so you can have time for yourself too. And that's really amazing that radiology has time, it has free times because as a future radiologist, you could have time for your families. You can't just have, full time. You say working, 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 till down four. That's not, proper. So, um, you talk about radiology. You need to the courses I did from first year to second year up until my third year is you need to get in touch with what's called psychology. um, Psychology, you need to study the course in physiology, you need to know anatomy, all anatomy. You should know anatomy. If you don't know anatomy, you can't function as a radiologist. What I mean is that if you're, for instance, you're carrying out um a procedure on a patient, a pregnant patient, you're trying to like know if the patient or whatever the pregnant patient has a male or a female baby, you need to know the anatomies. What I mean by the anatomies, you need to know where to fix your materials, on the below the stomach. You need to know where the abdomen is. You need to know where the spleen is and all those things. So without the knowledge of anatomy, I guess you can't prosper as a radiologist. And I did anatomy, I did anatomy in my second year, and it was a whole lot of fun. I had to dive into some bodily, structures used in anatomy. And as a radiologist, you need to know anatomy. Like I said before, when you talk about another subject, you talk about, like I said, I've said physiology and other things as you talk about, what's it called? You talk about physiology, you talk about medical biochemistry and others. So for now, let me just stop for now. I would say I 100% priorities for my education, right? I put my education first, you know. Medical school is really tough, it can drain your mental health, but I don't let that get to me. There are times, maybe I do some writings when I'm, you know, off from schoolwork, maybe in break time or something, or I don't really have classes to attend for the week or something. I could just do some writings and publish for a couple clients. So how I intend to balance the two is talking about time difference. You know how to, if you're not a time manager, you can't do that. As a medical student, I suggest that um you should learn how to balance, equation, because I try to find time for my writing. I also try to find time for my studies. You see, so that's how I do that. Because there are times that I don't really have times for writing. You just have to focus on your school stuff and everything. But yeah, but there are times, I have to dedicate some times in writings and some times in studies. But full time, 100%, I put my education first. I would say I would suggest LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a place where you can showcase your talent. As a medical writer or as a medical student, I would say LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a place where you get to meet other people that are in your shoes that are above you that you can learn from. So I would say start building your brand on LinkedIn because that's where I met Jasmine. Jasmine met me on LinkedIn, and yeah, LinkedIn is a place where you can meet clients, you can get some accounts, get some writing gigs and all of that. So I would love you to go right now, start today, and create an account on LinkedIn and start building from there. I would say the first thing is people don't know much about what radiology is all about and also what radiography is all about. There's some misconceptions about those two. Like I said before, radiography is quite different from radiology. Radiology is the doctor of radiography. Radiography is not a doctor. Radiography is kind of like a scientist, a radiation scientist or a technician in medicine. So, other misconception about radiologists is radiologists, they think radiologists don't carry out surgeries. Radiologists do carry out surgeries because every surgery that undergoes by a physician needs a radiologist by the side, because the radiologist is the person that tells you the direction of how you can start off the surgeries. So radiologists, they do carry out surgeries. So the challenges I would say radiologists is the availability of being in two places. Like you see a radiologist doing one or two things, three, four, five things at a time because of we're not that rampant, as nurses or doctors. So I would say the unavailability of a radiologist, in global phase is really not appreciated because of we are very few, So I guess that if more people join into the radiologist field, you can have more hands on the deck. Okay, like I said before, I had no idea about what radiology is all about. You know, I wanted to move into medicine. I want to study medicine. That was my initial ambition. While I was growing up, but due to circumstances, I applied for medicine. I wasn't granted the admission to join the university, so I had an option to move into radiology. So alongside with studying that radiology, I kind of like fell in love with the course. So yeah, it was during the process that I really fell in love with the radiology. But my attention, when I was, little, was medicine. I wanted to do medicine and medicine surgery. So yeah, I would say is when you're doing the studies that you will, okay, you will start up with you know getting to know about the technologies, because you can't know about the technologies if you're not in the profession already studying, right? So if you, what I mean, if you love about technology is, I'm talking about the medical aspect. I'm not talking about maybe all the tech, equipments that we use in maybe in engineering or architecture and everything. You need to, because the world is changing right now, in the use of medical appliances to work on the patient. So if you're interested in knowing about the medical trends and the changes in the technologies, I think radiology is the best fit for you. Yeah, how to get in touch with the technologies is when you're already in the profession. Unless you've gone to the hospital before and then you have some interactions with other radiographers or radiologists, you can get more info about the technology. But if you've not been to the hospital, you need to be you need to be in the profession. What I mean is you need to do the studying so you can get exposed about the technologies. I would say it's already in the perception that everyone wants to do medicine, everyone wants to do nursing, everybody wants to do engineering, everybody wants to do architecture. Radiologists are really few because of the lack of equipment. Like I said, it's a very expensive equipment. My school doesn't have much equipment that we use. That's the reason why we had to affiliate with a medical hospital that we affiliate with. But I would say the reason why radiology is really not rampant in the world is because of the inabilities of the providence of the technologies used in radiology, because they're very, very expensive, like very, very expensive. So if the government or any healthcare organization focus on the provisions of the equipment used in radiology, that would be an amazing help for in the radiology community. When you talk about there are specializations in radiology, for instance, interventional radiology is really, really very hard, because if you're studying that course in my country, I don't think you can work in a hospital, because most hospitals in Nigeria don't have that equipment. So if there are provisions of technologies, used in radiology, that would be great help.
Thank you everyone for your attention, and thank you Ransom once again for joining us today. So if you guys have any questions for us regarding membership or upcoming events, please reach out to us via email or DM us on our social media accounts, which you should definitely follow as well to get notified when we do more amazing webinars like this one.